I'm Jen,
Hi, I'm Dora, and we're two yogis talking about life.
and we're so grateful to have our dear friend Sarah Beebe. She's also a certified IREST teacher. Sarah is a somatic coach, trauma informed educator, and founder of Wholeness Uprising, a community where self employed healers, leaders, and change makers pool resources, share skills, and sustain each other in ways that traditional systems have failed to do. She weaves together deep ecology, disability justice, and embodied leadership to help people build work and life structures that are regenerative, interdependent, and nourishing. So no one has to do it alone. So welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Jen. Thanks. Hi, Dora.
Hi, so grateful to have you here with us. And I know you have many talents, and we'd love to get to know a little more about you and your background and how you came to IREST.
Hmm. Yeah. Mm. IREST has done so much for me. Let me back up to when I didn't have it. I spent the first 25 years of my professional life as a special education teacher, researcher, eventually consultant. I did a lot. I did as much as I could do in education, and I burned out bad. Uh, and I like literally crawled into my first yoga class, and I did that for about 6 months, and then I started to feel better and decided that I definitely wanted to be a yoga teacher. I think at first I really just wanted to be a yoga teacher so that I could learn how to adapt yoga for my body. Um, but very quickly I knew that I wanted to bring it to the people that I worked with, which largely were people with a variety, like a full spectrum of needs and impacts on the autism spectrum, and their families. And so that's what I did. I became a yoga teacher, and then I got an advanced credential, and then I became a yoga therapist. I started a nonprofit called Adaptive Yoga Movement. Um, And it was through yoga therapy that my training that I found IREST. Richard Miller came in and did a neuroscience of meditation little immersion. And I'm such a nerd, right? So so it just sounded lovely to me. This finally was an approach to ancient wisdom and meditation practices um, that was also like secular and scientific and really easy to bring into places like school and work. And yeah, that was great. And IREST was very meaningful to me because I deal with chronic pain and migraine. Um, and it changed my experience of pain. I was able at some point to like detach the sense of suffering and pain from the experience itself, which just gave me a sense of ease and agency in my own body. Um, and the practice of like tuning in helped me to know and communicate myself more. And it was really beautiful too, seeing that begin to unfold among the people that I worked with at first, who some of them were like only mildly verbal. Um, yeah, anyway, so love it. Couldn't live without it. That's how I came to it.
It's so beautiful that you shared, it's such an interesting thing, especially coming from an educator to yourself and then being able to share with your students, like you shared, some of them were even nonverbal. So for them to find this relief in their body. And so, I come from an education background and I'm still, even though I was a burnt out school teacher too, so I totally relate to that. But being in the education system, I'm curious, like, what kind of advice might you have, perhaps for teachers who might have a yoga background or meditation background, to have this understanding, as well as for those who maybe are just starting that journey? What kind of advice would you have for these two groups?
Mm. Mm. Don't use Sanskrit in school. I feel like bringing movement into learning is such a gift, and it has immediate, measurable effects, especially like cross-hemispheric movement. Um, I would have my kids stand up and breathe and stretch, and we would do little games sometimes before taking standardized tests, and our scores went up. I've actually done some research around this, not formal, just the kind that we do in practice, right? Um, and oh, there's like so much I could say. It's all flooding into my mind at once. I think the most important thing is to start with self, right? To be the co-regulator in the classroom. Um, and then maybe to start bringing the inside thinking aloud about how you do that, for a teacher to be able to say, oh, I'm feeling a little bit tired. I think I'm going to take some breaths. So modeling uh, is a beautiful way to start, and working with younger kids seems easier. Working with older kids, I learned some yoga party tricks to get them involved, because otherwise, I don't know, meditation and yoga can be cool. They can also be boring and slow and feel useless to your average high schooler or middle schooler. So, yeah. But I think, yeah, I learned a bunch of party tricks. Like, if a person is tuned in, there's one where you can like lift your big toe and feel the breath change and deepen, right? Or even just like massaging the ear and looking to see how much further you can turn your neck after. Um, those are kind of cute. Or like alternate nostril breathing. I haven't met anybody yet that didn't have an effect on. So there's some neat ways to get involved, just in the course of working. I'm curious too, Jen, how it was for you. I've always wanted to hear more about what it's like for you to bring yoga into your days in education.
I think it's similar to what you said. I really like the little ones because it's very playful. And I guess all ages can be playful, but definitely with the little ones. And then their bodies like much more like jello. So especially like in gym, definitely, but even throughout the day, just like you said, the breathing parts, a feeling into their body. I love all the party tricks. I'm gonna have to like interview you again just for party tricks, I think.
Those are really fun. I was thinking about how I started, just listening to you about how I started with my people who didn't have a lot of verbal capacity, and noises on an exhale are pretty common. So just taking that and playing with it and refining it was, I think, how I got in doing mirror movements. Yeah. It is just a delightful way to play and meet whatever is arising in the moment. Um, and I would never have been able to do that without, learning how to ground myself little and often. Yeah.
And as we are, talking about the IREST practice, and we know that the IREST practice is really based in somatics, like an experience of experiencing ourselves and as body sensations. And So I know that you're passionate about this aspect of the practice, and I'd love for you to maybe speak a little more about somatics and how you experience this with yourself, but also perhaps maybe speak a little bit about how other people understand somatics and how that might how there might be certain misconceptions around it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know the word somatics for a long time. It's like relatively new, decade or so to my vocabulary. And I love the word soma, just that there is an ancient word out there that describes all of the layers, right? All of the koshas are implied in this, all of our beliefs, the ways that we move through the world, the way we relate to ourselves and the body and the mind, all together, right? We're having this amazing, unique experience that's only ours, and we can't communicate it. And so I just thought that was awesome. And I've been learning how to integrate a more embodied approach into even like the very cognitive kind of coaching that I do. And I noticed that somatics is becoming a buzzword, and there are social media influencers who just make it look so juicy and sweet and yummy, and like it's just this joy and pleasure and ease, and it's gonna solve your anxiety all by itself. Just like be in your body and not your mind. And yeah, that's not it, is it? Yeah, the separation of mind body is like something for me that somatics and that IREST transcends, brings together. But I feel like in the vernacular, it's still like body or mind, still, right? Um, and yet, does the mind not exist inside of the body? Uh, so for me, I think somatics, working through a somatic lens, having somatic practice is not different than doing IREST. Um, it's just about cultivating awareness that's turned within as well as to the environment and to the others so that we're moving through the world and feeling it moving through us at the same time, right? Which can be challenging for anyone who's um, just sort of gone with the flow of how our culture does things, which disconnects us from body and prioritizes mentalizing, distracts our attention. So, like to turn in might reveal discomfort, might get more sensitive, might find, emotions that have not been felt. Um, and it can be a lot. For some of the people that I work with, it's a lot. Like, oh, this hurts. I don't want, every time I turn into my body, I cry. I'm sad. Why? I don't want to. Um, yeah, so I've been thinking about that too, and actually just really hungry for a conversation about um, how it feels and why it's worth it to cultivate that kind of awareness, that kind of sensitivity. When, like for me, I'm more sensitive to everything that hurts, but I'm also far more sensitive to my own aliveness and everything that's joyful. Um, and to be able to really meet and feel and know how I am in the moment helps me make better decisions. And I find that it's kind of challenging to communicate that to somebody who hasn't experienced it. It's not always an easy sell for me sometimes to try to get a person to tune in to sensation. I'm really curious what it is like for you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I totally agree that, tuning in is something that is difficult because we've been so trained not to go there. And I have come across students who are like, well, why would I want to feel into that? Why would I want to feel into my pain? Why would I want to feel into my anxiety? Like, aren't we doing this practice so that we feel good? Right? And then so I love that you brought this up because, ultimately, no, we're not doing this practice to feel good or bad, where it's a self increase about getting to know ourselves deeper. And it's about understanding that there's actually so much more than just feeling good and bad. There is something that is much deeper that holds everything, right? Yeah. So I'd love to hear more about you, or your experiences even in working with people, because you work with such a diverse group of people, from people with anxiety, depression, cancer care, cardiac care, chronic pain, like all sorts of people that you work with. Do you find that there are different approaches that you use for different people or groups of people that are more useful? Like, how have you approached this, or convincing them, or just even bring some curiosity around exploring this kind of practice?
Yeah. Oh, you're right. There is so much. Oh, I think in general, I'm the kind of person that looks for a teachable moment, you know? So when somebody is in connection with their senses already, I will try to use senses to go in. Um, and for some, I've, yeah, I've had some clients that are looking for a somatic coach, and then we're like, okay, so let's check in the body. Nope, I don't want to do that. You know, um, and so maybe we can talk about the nervous system instead, or um, or some people don't feel their bodies very much. And I remember with one client just trying to tap into sensation. Um, we had like a one foot with shoes and socks, and the other foot bare, and went walking around on a cold floor, and then moved to carpet just to kind of bring some attention to sensation. Um, and I think in general, no matter what, I spend a lot of time with resource, trying to find, identify, savor, describe the way that a favorite song might feel, or how nice it is to get up and go outside after we've been sitting in a chair for a while, or how delicious or disgusting a food is, right? Um, but building that resource and building the resource in the relationship so that when we are turning inward and discomfort does arise, or outward, like wherever discomfort or anything that we don't want to meet arises, that then like my nervous system is there for them to borrow, and our relationship connection can be resourcing. Yeah, I think that's just so important. And it's easy to overlook. Um, I think once I learned to tap in to my inner resource, to that felt sense of aliveness, even if it's with grief or rage, right? It's like so there, it's so easy, it's so right here all the time. And so I can forget to remind people to bring it in, to go back and meet there often. Um, yeah, and like building connection points, building ways to get somebody closer to their inner resource, right? Like sometimes we go through memory or imagination, or a tiny moment. I love to be with the moments. That's my favorite, I think. Yeah.
Thank you for all that, especially talking about the inner resource. I think that comes up a lot actually when we talk to people, like as sort of one of the main ways for ourselves and for the people we work with, right? To feel that sense of safety. Um, but you're actually starting to get excited, I feel. So I'm curious to hear about, like, you've had a long journey now in yoga and in IREST. So what is this that you're sort of excited about to infuse everything that you've experienced and are learning into now?
You know, IREST has been exciting for me. It hasn't lost its glow because I moved from education into coaching when I thought education was feeling a little too directive and pathologizing special education with its diagnoses, right? Um, and yeah, moving into somatics also is like a way of bringing in the body on top of the coaching, and it's just such this natural place where things come together. Everything that I have learned, all of the different psychological approaches, also a counselor that I've taken on, all of the really cool practices, half of the books behind me, including Martha Beck's awesome new one, Beyond Anxiety. It just all seem to layer on top of IREST to me. um, and so I actually sometimes don't know how to answer a question like that because it's all the same at this point, at this long journey, right? I see it all as a practice of like learning to welcome everything and how to release preference as a part of that process and lean in to what's important, um, and let the pressure in life just sort of help me organize myself to meet it. Um, and more, I've been excited about practicing in community and building community, staying connected with each other. I think as I've gone further into my own personal healing journey, like, I see how necessary it is that that we work on social and collective healing too. Um, and that, being in practice with others is a full felt sense experience of that interconnection. And I'm excited about that. You know, I remember in the last school that I worked in, which was a one-on-one school, I have a photograph that I took during a lunch hour. And there's about 30 different kids in the picture. They are all, every one of them, in their phones. And some of them are like texting to each other, but and many stay in their computers most of the day. Um, yeah, and so that felt sense of being in connection with other people is a completely different experience for the body. I feel like it changes the mind. Uh, and allows us to look into a possibility and to meet and respond to what's here instead of feeding into that dopamine spiral that just needs ever more distraction, you know? So yeah, I think it's gorgeous and beautiful and also full of grief and anger and love and appreciation and discovery and humility and learning. It's what it's all about for me. A full, meaningful life
Mm,
together.
that's beautiful. I think, that just about sums up everything that we talked about. I think it's so beautiful how you know, you're right when you get to this part of your journey where you've experienced so much and through your experiences, through your practices, and through the different modalities, it's really about integrating all of that in a way that we can bring it into community. And And what you're saying is so spot on in that now, even when we're in community, we don't know how to be present with each other, right? We need to be distracted. So we're in the same physical location, but we're not connected. We're not being together. We're just together. And so I think part of the practice is learning about how we can reconnect, but it has to come from, or knowing how to reconnect means we need to reconnect with ourselves so that we can connect from that place, heart to heart, as Richard would say, right? Seeing from my heart to connecting from heart to heart. So yeah, I think that's so beautiful the way you just summed that up.
Heart to heart connection is everything. I remember the first time I heard him say that holding somebody in dyad is like holding their heart in your hands.
Mm.
And it just felt so deep and real.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and taking time to speak with us. We can talk forever. And for anyone of our listeners who might be interested in learning more about Sarah and the work that she does, or to work with Sarah, we'll put information down. You can, in the link below, you'll find Sarah in the IREST directory website, so you can reach out that way. But hopefully we will hear more about Sarah and her upcoming projects. And as they do come up, we will continue to update the information on our site. So thank you,
It's,
Sarah.
it's been a delight to be here.
Thank you so much.